I know that He is good, that He loves me, He loves us. And so I know that He is going to work it all out. Anytime when we have a difficult time, we're going to create this podcast to complain about our struggles and our pain
Process in a safe space.
of our lives. Yes, exactly.
Not emotional dumping.
Yes, it is definitely emotional
Yes.
dumping.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Mm.
I guess we can start off with a good thing first.
Yeah.
What was our good thing today?
A good thing today was I think we got to visit a new church. Should we say the name?
Let's keep it a secret for now.
Anonymous. It's a Yolololo church. But we haven't. This is our first time visiting a church together.
Yes.
Yes. And so we went to the service, and I think the powerful thing was like the message God gave me, no matter where you are, I'm with you. It was like a new space, new people. We don't know anybody. We don't know what the service looks like. We just jumped in, and yeah, I just felt the presence of God. So I think that was the most like fulfilling and encouraging. And then second was like being able to see one of my close best friends there, Anna, and like
shout out to Anna.
Shout out to Anna
you
for
should watch this
introducing.
podcast
Yeah.
all the way. All the way.
All 2 hours.
Let's make it extra long.
I know. Prophecy. It has to upload all night.
I know. Oh my gosh.
You wake up at
It's
7
already
a.m. It's
stressful.
like 99%.
Oh my god. Another hour until it's fully uploaded.
Yes. Yeah. So it was like the presence of God, getting to see my friend, and I think just such a welcoming place.
Oh yeah, so
Yeah,
welcoming.
like as soon as we got there, like even in the parking lot, like they were like, "Oh, this way."
Yeah.
And then we paused for like 2 seconds, and then someone came up and was like,
Oh, are you new here?
you new here? Like,
Yeah.
oh, let me, like, this is the sanctuary. And like,
Yeah.
he was like, oh, how are you? Who are you?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it wasn't overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like coming out of the service, they were like, oh, is it your first time? And then they would catch up, but somebody else would be like, how was it?
Yeah.
And then we're
constant.
just talking with my friend, and then these like two people from the welcoming table come like, it's your first time here? It was like a statement, like,
Yeah.
you guys are your first time, right? And we're like, how did you know?
Yeah.
Maybe it was my face.
Yeah. Maybe it's like we had
It's
a
like
wandering
maybe I
phase.
had like a little yeah.
Maybe it's the wandering eyes. They just like look at people for their wandering eyes. Are these people's eyes wandering? They're new then.
Yeah. And so that was really refreshing. Like the sermon was so like powerful and like very new. Like I know I gave that example of I felt like Shamu. Like I mean, seeing you, it was like, oh, I got to see Shamu released into the ocean.
Yeah.
So that sense of liberation.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, but that was so it was just like a very fulfilling service, communally, sermon wise, relationally, emotionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it was
good.
Yeah. What about you?
I mean, I think one of the things that I noticed was that when you're in the midst of people that you don't know at church, and it's a new surrounding with people you don't know, I think there's a switch where you can really focus on not just maybe the people around you, but on God and what He's speaking to you. And I really do see that to be true. And this was the first time I went to a new church in the last 4.5 years. And it's a new environment. And I don't know anybody else. I don't know their struggles. I don't know, like, we don't have any tension between one another. And I think as you go and spend a lot of time in a small Korean immigrant church, there inevitably is some tension between some people. I think for me right now, it's a lot of people. I think almost like everybody.
All
at
the
least it
fishies in
seems
your
like,
tank.
I don't know. Maybe it's just my interpretation of it. And you could have some tension. And I think there's nothing, there's no tension.
Mm.
It's just literally I'm just there, and even the people are around me
Mm.
and I don't know them though. And
Mm.
so a lot of my mind doesn't go to what are they thinking
Mm.
or the tension that I may have with that person across
Mm.
the room. It's just literally just worshiping God
Mm.
and listening to the sermon, which by the way
Mm.
was so good. And I think we
Mm.
could talk about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's one
Mm.
of my takeaways for me. And I if I had to summarize the takeaway,
Mm.
was that like I told you, I felt so seen
Mm.
and I felt so refreshed.
Yeah.
And I told you, like, man, if every Sunday could feel like this,
Mhm.
I feel like I'd just be a happier person.
Come alive,
Yeah.
come alive.
I honestly don't remember the last time I felt this spiritually fulfilled on a Sunday. Like,
Mm.
I cannot remember a time.
Yeah.
And I just felt so, just so filled, so
Mm.
renewed, so seen by
Mm.
that, by the entire worship service. I was like,
Yeah.
man, this is how I need to feel.
Mm.
I mean, not how I need to feel. It's
Mm.
just, it's so amazing that I get to feel like
Yeah.
this on a
Yeah.
Sunday. And I imagine myself, man, I could get used to this. I
Uh-huh.
could get used to every Sunday being so filling for me.
Yeah.
And like we've talked about, we've spent so much of our time serving.
Mhm.
And even the newcomer table, even though it was very interesting how everybody knew that we were newcomers. Like literally, like five people came up to us, "Hey, you're a newcomer."
Uh-huh.
I was like, "Yes, we are."
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's is maybe something about our face or something that like gives off
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
newcomer.
Disclaimer though, like we're not that clumsy.
Yeah,
Like we're not like dropping things and like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. We
oh,
don't have
where's
like a
this?
newcomer sign.
Yeah.
It's just they just
Yeah.
know like, and maybe it's just the culture,
Yeah.
right? They're just they're just I don't know, they're just happy people
Mhm.
and filled people, it seems like. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure every church has its own problems,
Mhm.
but at least for now, I can't see any problems. I'm sure there are deep problems. I don't know. And so, yeah, even that welcoming space was
Mhm.
very, very welcoming.
Yeah, it was.
And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And you said things about like feeling seen, feeling like refreshing. Do you want to share more about like where that comes from? Or
yeah,
like
that's a great question.
mm.
I think this is the first time in a very long time
Mm.
where I didn't have to do something and I
Mm.
could just sit there and just receive.
Mm.
And I think the sermon was so relevant to my life and
Yeah.
maybe relevant to almost everybody in that
Mhm.
church
Yeah.
space. And to hear another preacher who's Korean American,
Mm.
I think is also very like affirming in a sense
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
when you see yourself being reflected upon the pulpit, it's a very
Yeah.
different experience
Yeah.
rather than somebody who doesn't share your culture, your
Mm.
struggles, maybe some unconscious things that you go through being Korean American, second
Mhm.
generation, 1.5
Mhm.
generation, and the fact that the pastor has gone through all that
Mhm.
and speaks, I think number one, in and of itself is very
Mhm.
powerful. And number two, his sermon was just so good.
Mhm.
And it was a great balance of blessing. He talked about blessing
Mm.
and how God wants to bless every part of our lives
Mm.
and not just a part. And one of the things that we've done as a Christian community is that we've over spiritualized blessing.
Mm.
What that means is that God blesses the inner man.
Mm.
God blesses perhaps our emotions, gives us our hope and eternal salvation.
Mhm.
But God does not bless what we need in terms of materialism, or
Yeah.
not materialism, but materials
Mm.
like
Mhm.
physical
Like money.
goods,
Mhm.
money, and because of things like the
Mhm.
prosperity gospel and how prosperity gospel has robbed us, or maybe not rob is the right word,
Distorted kind of.
distorted this
Mm.
idea that God wants to and is blessing his blessings come in the form of materials
Mhm.
and also money as well.
Mm.
And that we have to be mindful of that.
Mm.
And when it says God is blessing us, He's
Mm.
not just blessing us eternal life.
Yeah.
God is blessing us actively right now,
Yeah.
here, right now.
Yeah.
And with material goods, with
Mm.
money. And that doesn't mean on the opposite spectrum
Mm.
is money, having a lot of money is bad. Like,
Mm.
that's not what he's saying. Like, he is also saying that poverty is good,
Mm.
right? He's not saying, and he specifically mentioned that in the sermon.
Mhm.
It was a great balance of like having a lot of money isn't necessarily a blessing from God.
Yeah.
Being in poverty is not necessarily a curse from God.
Yeah.
And at the same time, money is a form of blessing
Blessing.
of God.
Yeah.
And so just that balance, I was like, man, this guy is like, he speaks the truth in such a
Mhm.
balanced way, in a way that's so easy to hear.
Yeah.
And that when he spoke that into my life, first of all, it felt like he spoke that into my life. And it
Mhm.
felt like God was speaking into my life.
Yeah.
And there was such a reassurance that in my life, God is working. And that's a
Mhm.
conversation that we had before, that God
Yeah.
is working.
Yeah.
And God is working to bless every part of our
Mhm.
lives and not just specific parts. And
Yeah.
like one of the things that he said was that we tend to like limit God's blessings. Like God's
Mhm.
blessings need to look like this.
Mhm.
When in reality, God wants to bless like everything.
Mhm.
And so just the sermon itself was just so good.
Yeah.
And it just makes me feel so seen, so
Yeah.
heard, so
Yeah.
filled.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was like I can just like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Levitate.
I like that levitating.
Levitate.
Yeah,
I
so
see it in the lights behind you.
and
It
that's
seems
just
brighter.
that's right. This
See-
is it. These lights represent my spiritual experience at this new church.
It seems brighter today than yesterday.
That is true. It's brighter. It sparkles a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said. Yeah. Like the points of like this, how a sermon could be, make somebody feel so seen, so heard. And like, I think that comes from how applicable it was and how the culture of his upbringing and his identity were able to resonate in with it more, and his introduction of or inclusion of today's society. So it's not like, oh, it's not all theory, it's not this culture that I haven't experienced. It's, oh, I've walked through that and I know it. And I thought that too of like, I know you do a podcast about Bitcoin and Jesus.
Mhm.
And like our question of like, oh, like, how can you be faithful in your job? And we did a podcast about bivocational, like, what does it mean to be diligent in your job, still make a money for your household, and yet be committed to ministry? Like, why does it seem so like detached? And he was telling us today, like, it's one thing, it's one multifaceted like blessing
Blessing.
that God gives. And it was like, whoa, like that was such a refreshing idea. And it clicked all the disconnections in my life. Like my job is a different thing, like money is a different thing. Like, and then Jesus and church is just all a spiritual thing. And the
Mm-hmm.
relationships at church. Like that's all like internal church stuff. But he was saying like how real it is that what God provides. Like he's saying, is it to say God is not involved with money? Is that God is not a provider? And I was like, oh, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that was very like refreshing ideas he threw and like validated our own thoughts and curiosities, which I think helped us to feel seen and heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think his sermon
Mm.
was to show that a part of it is
Mm.
that God is working in every part of our lives,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's not a part where we should
Mm.
discount God from working
Yeah.
in that part,
Yeah.
no matter how. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do see that.
Yeah.
Another thing that I noticed about myself as I was going through that time was
Mm.
I think I'm such an action oriented
Mhm,
person,
mhm.
and there's a part of me, I was like, is there like an internship for pastors
No.
where I was like, man, I love to serve here, you
Yeah.
know? And that's where like automatically I go.
Mm.
And that isn't always a bad thing
Yeah.
because I think bias to action is often a good thing.
Mhm.
And one thing that I really want to commit to myself in this season
Mm.
is exploration
Mm.
and non-action and just being.
Yeah,
And
to
I
just
guess
be.
like this podcast is like technically doing,
Mm.
but it doesn't feel like doing.
Yeah, yeah.
It does not feel like I'm like working on
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
It's just like super life giving for
Uh-huh.
me. And
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it does not feel like work for me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I had to, and they were like telling us there's a lot
Mhm.
of pastors who come who's been burned out, and
Mhm.
they need a space to where they can heal, and they have like
Mhm.
inner healing
Mhm.
ministry and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And just she's like looking at me, I was like, oh, okay, maybe she's like telling me to go there. She
I
could
know.
sense
I
my
know. She has like a
sense my
sixth
hurts.
sense. Yeah.
And so yeah, I think I really just need to commit to that in this
Mm.
season,
Yeah.
and commit to just seeing and
Mm.
being, receiving, being filled.
Yeah.
And when it's the right time,
Mm.
I want to re-engage
Mm.
with a new renewed sense of purpose,
Yeah.
uh, a more focalized direction on where I want to go, and for me to be okay with that.
Mm.
And I don't necessarily agree with this idea of self-love.
Mm.
And I mean, I guess people don't really talk about it anymore.
Mm.
But I can translate it to maybe like self-care.
Mm.
And I didn't really believe in that stuff.
Mm.
And I think more and more I'm coming to realize that that stuff is really important.
Mm.
And maybe not self-care in the sense of this this sense of like, oh, it's just like all about me
Mm.
and all that stuff.
Mm.
Um, in the sense of I want to serve God and I want to act and do for
Mm.
Him.
Mhm.
And I want to do it in a
Mm.
space where I feel content and at peace with
Mm.
God, and a place of just overflow. I know
Mm.
Kimmy always says that, right? Just place of overflow.
Mm.
And I think that's how I feel. I
Mm.
can't maybe pinpoint the exact scripture for it,
Mm.
but it seems to me that that is how God wants us to
Yeah.
feel and
Yeah.
serve,
Yeah.
not just denying. I mean, yes, there's a denial of self, but and this sense of just like running on spiritual empty
Mhm.
and thinking to yourself that, oh, I'm just dying to myself, I'm taking up the
Yeah.
cross, when in reality you're just being unfaithful even,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not having that secret time with God,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So I really want to commit to that this season
Mm.
of just being and processing
Mm.
everything that's happened over the 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And we don't, and like we talked about, like we're not going to put a deadline on this,
Mm.
right? Like it could be, like I could be all better tomorrow, or I
Mm.
could be all better, I don't know, 10 years from now.
Mhm.
I hope it's not that long. But if that's what it takes, that's what it
Yeah.
takes. Like we're not going to put a deadline on it. We're just going to see how God moves,
Mhm.
and that's, yeah, that's that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said. It's like what comes into mind is the circle, like being, and then it points to doing, and then doing points to being. And I think that's the medium of this podcast first is like
Mm,
we're just being ourselves, but it becomes into doing this podcast, and then
mm,
doing this podcast allows us to be ourselves,
mm.
continue to be ourselves.
Sure.
And I think that's the point you're raising about church and of the gospel of like God's told us to be his children. Like our identity is children of God. We're saved and in the blood of Christ. So we're redeemed. We're his beloved children. But he also says like put your faith into action. So he says do. But it's not just do, sinner, 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 sinner. It's like you're also beloved and saved
Mm,
and precious. And so I think it's like to have a servant heart, but to remember and like treasure that God loves us each individually equally. And so, yeah, I think that's a very, gospel centered,
yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you're so deep.
No.
Wow, deep.
it's your sharing, and I'm like,
No,
oh,
I
I
think
see
every time I
it.
like talk to you, I'm just like surprised. I'm like, wow. Okay.
Be
Okay.
charmed.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I
That's
think
so
that
good.
was a good reminder for me too. Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's not all about being.
Mm.
It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna receive, receive, receive self care.
Yeah, I
Just
think some people just
yeah,
stay there forever.
yeah. No
It's
hard
like, all
feelings.
right,
Yeah.
just
Uh,
being filled up.
do this for me.
Yeah.
I'd like some of this, a
Yeah,
little bit
some
of
of
that.
that. Yeah.
You won't do it? Oh, can you do it?
Yeah.
But then there's also like, I think we are on a little bit of the doer of
Oh
like,
yeah,
I
definitely.
gotta do this,
Oh
I
yeah,
gotta do
yeah,
that, and
that's
like,
us
yeah,
for
and I
sure.
have to do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for
Yeah.
sure.
When I was a little triggered, honestly, when she was like, we don't let people serve for the
Yeah,
first, like as soon as you get here, even
yeah,
if you want to. And I
yeah,
was like, oh, and she's like, what have you served? And I gave like, oh, young
yeah.
adults, I've done high school, I've done middle
Mm,
school, I still serve on the praise team. And I was like,
mm.
it wasn't like, wow, it was like a, ooh.
Ooh, you got
It
a
was like,
problem.
ooh, just so you know, like we don't like. I was like, oh, but that's like a part of my identity.
Yeah,
And so I resonate with like also going through a season of even it could be uncomfortable, but just to be
yeah,
and to remember
yeah,
what that's like.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's where I'm at right now. Just
Yeah.
remembering of what it feels like to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Mm.
I think we'll continue to check out maybe some different churches. I
Yeah.
don't know. We can go to the same one.
Mm-hmm.
We can see how it feels.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go out to the small group this week,
Mm-hmm.
and so checking out the community.
Yeah.
So, anything you wanna
Yeah.
else add about the
The
church
church.
experience?
Mm, no.
No.
Yeah. That was good. Anything else you want to say about?
Nope.
Yeah, it was really good. It
Yeah, it
was
was
really
really
good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can get into the not so
Uh,
fun part.
yeah, I know you say grows and glows. So we
Grows
did
and
the
glows.
glows, so now we got to do the
Yes.
grows.
Let's do it.
Not highs and lows, grows and
Grows
glows.
and
Yeah.
glows. Come on. All right, grows and glows.
Uh-huh.
This is definitely doom.
It's not grows, it's groans. Ooh.
All right. It's like, yeah, it's not even grows and glows. This isn't
Groans.
just groans.
It's the
That's
glows
what
and
that is.
groans. Yeah, it's not grow, it's
Yeah,
groans.
groans. This is the groaning that is
Yeah.
in mentioned in Genesis
Oh
when
yeah.
something
There will be
about
weeping and gnashing of teeth.
yes, that's
The end times are near.
I,
Yes, yes. That's a taste of it.
I know,
Yeah.
and I love how we can like laugh about this but die inside. Oh yeah, groan.
And Paul said rejoice. He
That
did
is
it in
true.
prison. Like maybe
That
this is
is
what he
true.
was
That is
stating.
true.
Rejoice. Anyways.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Well, why don't you start? Tell us. Maybe we don't want
Uh,
to go into like super specific
yeah.
detail, but
Yeah.
tell how, yeah, however you feel comfortable sharing, because
Yeah.
it's your
Yeah.
parents.
Woo! Woo! Yeah, they're mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the underlying theme is so basically it's coming from a context of like we had a conversation today about asking for marriage. You and I have already committed since we started dating. We're like we were dating to be married, and so we were going through this like 2.5 years of loving our parents. I know I'm their first daughter, so they needed time to open up, get to know you, and so um, we're like, oh, I think we're at a place. We've been patient, we've been praying, we've had a conversation, and they're a lot more open. We had dinner, we had a great time, and we're like, okay, what do you guys think about our marriage? And then we had a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
And so I think what I'm taking away is basically they're like, wait more. And they gave various reasons that logically didn't make sense to me. Groans and
No
glows.
comment. No
Yes.
comment.
Um, I think it's just hard because it's hard to depersonalize it. Like, let's say the logic of you need to be two whole people to be married. I think we're starting in a foundation of faith and starting in a place of our own faith and love for God. Um, and our decision is not simply financial, physical, societal means, but a blessing from God. And I was like, isn't that one of the blessed places to start? And to be successful, to be happy in marriage, like, isn't that the most important thing? And so I think that's why it's hard for me to receive that kind of advice and logic of like two unwhole people cannot be in a marriage. And I think we're always in a process of growth. And so it's like honestly asking for an unfair expectation of be perfect to be perfect. Like I'm still open to marital counseling and having mentorship and having other couples to journey it with. Yeah, I felt like now I'm an adult and in a place to make a decision for my life. And it still feels like I'm in this like box of my life is to please my parents. My life is to serve my parents. And I will like still have a heart to serve and love them, but I think this is a crucial moment in my life where it's not just the fact that I can get married, it's like navigating honoring my parents yet still going forward in my life and breaking free of that false belief of like I am my parents' child, I am not my own person. And that belief of my primary goal is to serve and make them happy. And my decision for myself is rebellion. My decision for myself in my life is wrong because it's not their desire. And so I think it's navigating through a lot of personal childhood like ties and experiences and then just if they truly love me as they're saying, like I wish they would just be more tender and loving the person I love with all my heart. And
Which is me.
yes. Oh yeah, yeah. That person is not me. It's him. It's not me, myself, and I. I love myself. Yes, yeah. I love Jay with all my heart, and I think he's the most amazing partner. And just be acknowledged that like I'm willing to take on the consequences, the responsibilities, and maybe I'm missing some pieces that I don't see. But yet that's a journey I want to go through. Like the response of you're young, you don't know it. It's yeah, because I haven't walked through it. Can I walk through it? And like, am I supposed to ask, can I walk through it? Or do I just walk through it? Like I'm gonna walk through it. And so it's that more journey of breaking free from personal childhood ties and growing out from home. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's tough.
Yeah.
I think there's so many things to unpack there.
Yeah.
I think no marriage is perfect.
Mhm.
Every marriage has parts that you want to honor,
Mhm.
and like unless you don't remember it, I don't remember. I guess, I guess when my mom's like, Anyway, that's another story. um, and there's also a lot of places where it could be broken.
Mhm.
And those places impact us
Mhm.
in ways. And it's challenging.
Mm.
And for you to be on the other end of that with all the things that you have to go
Mm.
through, and yes, I think I it's difficult for me to even like say,
Mm.
because it's it's part of growth,
Mhm.
and also like you said, to honor your parents while at the same time being your own person.
Mhm.
That's like such, I feel like, an Asian thing. Honestly,
Yeah,
right? It
yeah.
just feels like so Asian,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm just like biased, like racist. I don't think I'm racist.
It's okay, you're Korean, so you can say that about
Yeah.
Koreans.
Well, not
At
about
least
other Koreans, or not about Koreans, like other ethnicities.
no, maybe not in the other ethnicities, but Koreans.
I think, okay, like with other ethnicities, maybe not all ethnicities. There's some ethnicities where they're like a lot more free. It's
Mm.
like, yeah, like it's my first time meeting that person, and your
Like,
own.
you're 18, you're an adult,
Yeah,
get out
you're an
of the
adult. Get
house.
out of
Like,
the
I'm
house.
happy that you're going out of the house. I'm
Yeah,
happy that you're becoming independent.
exactly.
You're gonna go to college, you figure it out.
Yeah,
You're gonna get a job and do something else, you figure it out. Yeah,
exactly.
I love you, but
Yeah,
that's now your next.
yeah. That kind of attitude,
Yeah,
which I think it has to be a little bit more nuanced,
yeah.
right? In
Mhm.
some senses. And at the same time, to the point where, anyways, I'm not gonna comment about your parents because I respect them. I
Uh-huh,
honor
uh-huh.
them for the work that
Yeah.
like they've done in
Mhm,
terms of like raising
mm,
you to be the
mm.
person that you are.
See, what an
Because
open-hearted man. So kind, so generous.
thank you, thank you.
I'm the actual daughter, and I'm like bitter. Anyways.
No, I
Uh-huh.
think I appreciate them for those things.
Mhm,
And there are in our conversation today very um, challenging things
mhm,
to navigate through, right? And so, yeah, I am sorry about everything that you have to go through.
yeah.
And I think there's also part of me where I communicated this to you today that it feels unfair.
Mm,
Not that I think that I'm this amazing person. I think I hear from a lot of people where like, Jay, like
mhm.
why would anybody not
Yeah.
want you? And wanting, being wanted is a big thing for
Mm,
me.
yeah.
Not in a sense of like because of my father thing,
Mhm,
right? The whole like being, like, not wanted in those ways. But I know that I don't think your parents are intentionally doing that to me.
mm,
At least I don't think they are. But I think that there are parts perhaps where I do feel like it is. And I think this is where whatever I feel, I think I'm honest with you about it, and still love them, serve them, seek to understand, keep them in my prayer. And I think that's how I think that's how I feel a little. But I know that God is working, I know that He is good, that He loves me, He loves us. And so I know that He is going to, work it all out. And I think also, you know, it gives us, it gave you a sense of resolution.
Mm.
And you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so sad to hear
Oh,
you.
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's just like my heart is just so like most heavy and sad, like sorry towards you, because like when I was telling you like it's not anything you've done, anything you didn't do. It's like it's because they just don't know you, and they may need to grow. And I just want to say that like I think you're the most amazing partner, man, leader, and that there is nothing you are unworthy of being loved, and that I love you with my whole heart, and that that I see your heart, and maybe the old pain it can resurface with your dad, and I just want to just acknowledge your feelings and just say like I'm here, I see them, and I'm with you, and yeah, like you're talking about the resolution and it made me I have these like military like very like well like fierce moments, right? Like
Yeah.
I think like 90% of the time I'm a very like
Like
what do you call it? Mellow, yeah,
mellow, just
mellow,
like
just like
accepting. Oh, whatever
yeah,
you
like I'm
want to
not a
do.
very
Yeah.
like gunner, like go getter. I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, life is good. I'm not like irresponsible, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like I like normal, same like thing.
Mm-hmm.
But and I'm like, okay, that person's being like this. I love these people. Like very just like but then there are moments where I get fiery. And
And this
today,
is the moment.
yes, and today it was I felt so like I think one was like I felt so protective of you of like how dare they speak to my love like this. And then the second part was like a wake up call, like I think a part of me was dependent on you. Like I think I saw it as like it's you and me figuring it out against them. But it's like, oh, I'm gonna fight you. And all those things that you said I don't have, like I'm gonna get it done.
That's right.
Like it's like there's a Korean song like I will show you. It's
Mm-hmm.
like 보여줄게. 이게
보여줄게.
완전히 달라. It's like I'll show you the new me.
That's
And so
right.
it's like stirring of like in like deep inside like my stomach and chest of this like fire of like it's like
Mm.
anger and
Mm.
like this like in Korean it's like ogi like
Mm.
determination and like
Mm.
this sense of grit of
Mm-hmm.
like I'm gonna do it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna show you.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's like maybe it's not the perfect attitude, but I'm like okay, like I'm not grown up yet. Like okay, like I'm gonna get a job. Like and like I'm done with grad school. I'm done with all my like licensing. I just need to like actually I was like, okay, then by this month I'm gonna maybe 2 weeks, I'm
Mm.
gonna go get a job. I'm gonna make 10,000 a month. I hope my
Boss,
future
boss lady.
I hope my future boss.
Is it boss girl?
Boss girl. Oh.
What is it? Is it boss
I was
girl?
boss girl.
Uh,
Yeah, I think so. But I hope my actual future boss
yeah.
does see this and be like 10,000.
No, I want 12,000.
Yeah,
That's
I was like,
that's what
I'm
I
paying her
deserve.
15. Ooh. Ambitious. Yeah. I guess like that ambition. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think like, oh, like this is like game mode. I think that's what it clicked me in of
Mm.
like if it's something I desire, it's something I desire. Like I'm a person who's not very passionate, but there are a couple things like continuing like my journey to be like a PA and like God. And I think it's like the thing I wanted the most in my life is marriage. Like
Mm.
this marriage journey with you. Not
Yeah.
like before I was like, oh, I'm gonna get married one day, but like with you, I'm like, I want to be married and start a family. Like I've
Mm.
never like maybe I wanted a dog a little bit. I
I'm
can't.
sorry.
Sorry, I think that's like second, but like
Yeah,
it's like,
I keep saying no.
but I've prayed for that since I was like 6 or 7.
I shall grant that prayer
But
request.
yeah, yeah, but it's topped that. Like that's
Wow.
been my only consistent prayer of like Jesus, like
God, the retreat
I want a
left,
dog. I
please.
saved like all like years of my like allowance money. And even if like rejection of my parents, I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
still gonna get it. I'm still gonna get a dog. I still like, yeah, but it's even like the even above that, like not, yeah, but I'm like,
Yeah.
there's some I've never desired and prayed and like hoped for and like thought of deeply of a future. It's not simply like I want a bag. It's like this is an experience and a season and a journey that like I want to commit like my whole life and my whole being to.
Mm,
I've never really experienced that outside of like salvation.
mm,
And then to the point is like I'm realizing like if that's the extent of how much I desire, is that's how much more I need to be in prayer.
mm,
Not like, God, I want to be married by this year. Thank you. Bye. It's like every day I'm gonna be
mm,
like interceding for us.
amen.
And like so in prayer, I'm gonna continue to like pour my heart into Jesus and like essentially beg spiritually. Jesus,
Jesus,
please.
Jesus,
Sha-la-la-la-la-la.
주님, 샤라라라라.
Every tongue I can speak. And then a sense of like application. Like not everything is out of my power, but I'm gonna do everything in my power to do something about it.
Mm,
And so yeah, I think I'm like in war fight mode of I'm gonna get a financial outcoming and I'm gonna output, gonna like try to make less reasons for my parents to be like, you're not self-sufficient yet.
mm,
And and then also, yeah, and so that's like my goal of like be more in deep, serious prayer and continue my life stage of like a job, be financially self-independent and experience that work field. And if like maybe during that time I'm in the work field, it's gonna be new. It's my first time being an official PA. It's gonna have hard moments, and if that's the challenges I have to go through, then like yeah, I'm like, and I have to grow it from that in order to like be more whole in a sense to be married. Like okay, I'm all for it, and maybe I'll come out of it being like, oh, it was just this. Like like marriage is still what I want.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I think, yeah, being more work sufficient and prayer sufficient. And yeah, and then hopefully, and prayerly, just this year
Mm,
is the goal.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like determined,
Yeah.
determination,
Yeah.
200%.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, your thoughts?
I think that, I mean, I told you, I'm not going to use that word, but
Mm.
so 매력적인. what is it? 매력적인
매력적.
거?
Uh-huh.
매력이
Uh-huh.
있다.
Uh-huh.
Like, it was so like, wow,
Mm.
that's amazing, you
Mm.
know? And I'm all for it. I think there's a part of me where I do want a boss girl. Take care of me,
Mm-hmm.
please. Send me to the
Sugar mama.
spas. Give me some, buy me some food. Take care of me.
Disclaimer, like, because I tend to be like the baby in the relationship, not because of our age gap, but like I'm very like, feed me.
Yeah, now I'm like,
Let's do
yes,
this, but
take care of
we'll do the
me.
opposite.
I know.
Like, just trust me. Let's go. Like, naman 믿고 따라가. You want sashimi?
알겠습니다.
Oh, let's go omakase. Let's go. I'll take
알겠습니다.
you.
알겠습니다. 누님.
Fine dining, $300. Let go.
Okay.
Trip to Hawaii. Let's go.
Okay. All right, we're dreaming big here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just
Mm.
grateful.
Mm.
And I think, yes, I love that determination.
Mm.
I love that resolution. And I just, I'm just so grateful at the end of the day.
Mm.
I know even like we ended our last episode just like thanking one another. It's just like it's not fake at all,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah,
Like
it's not
we
scripted. It's
yeah,
not.
we're not like saying, okay, we're gonna thank each other at the end. Okay.
Pause. Okay, so okay, in
Okay.
5 seconds, you
Okay. You say three things that you're grateful about me, and I go three things.
make it as naturally as possible.
I think I don't. I mean, we were talking in the car,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just grateful.
Mm.
I was like, even though it is challenging in many ways, the fact that I get to do it with Bree, and I wouldn't want anyone else to go through this time with,
Yeah.
and the fact that she's just responding the way that
Mm.
she's responding with more resolution
Mm.
rather than like running away with her tail behind her
Mm-hmm.
legs
Being a
and
baby.
being a baby, right? The fact the fact that you decide to fight and stand up.
Mm.
I think that's very admirable.
For you, yes.
Yes, thank you.
For everyone.
And
Mm.
so, yeah, I think I just, even though it's like such a roller coaster today, I was like, oh my gosh, life is so good. Oh my gosh, life
What
is
is
so
going
awful.
on?
It's like glowing to
Uh-huh.
groaning.
Oh yeah.
Back to glowing. Maybe it's like glowing
Uh-huh.
to groaning
Uh-huh.
to growing. Oh.
Oh.
Because like I feel like through this
Mm.
processing time we're able to grow in
Mhm.
many different ways. And yeah, I just really appreciate
Mm.
your attitude
Mm.
and the way that you just choose to respond
Mm.
in standing up for our relationship.
Mm.
As much as I feel like I continue to do that, right? And I should do that. I think, and I see you doing that
Mm.
is very, I feel protected,
Mm.
right? And I feel like, I feel feminine.
Yeah, girl. Oh,
Yeah,
you do
girl.
the yeah, girl. I'm like,
Yeah,
I
girl.
got you,
Yeah,
babe.
girl.
Get behind me.
And I think like these moments are important,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think through this entire day, I'm just ending with gratitude and gratitude for you,
Mm.
gratitude for God for always working and being faithful in our lives. I'm grateful for this podcast, how we get to
Yeah.
process this together. And that's how I feel like I'm going to end my night.
Mm. Yeah. I feel like we're glowing with these lights right now.
I know.
Everywhere I look, it's like, whoa.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, though. Like being grateful of our relationship, of God. And yeah, I think that's all there in the podcast, like a safe space to talk. I
Yeah.
think that's everything to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts before we end? It is past my bedtime.
Oh, yes. Yes. His bedtime ranges from 8 to 9 p.m.
Yeah, seriously.
But
It's like
his,
what? What time is it?
I
Like
think it's like
9:30?
10 almost.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just grateful for you. I think just like how you manage the situation, like the conversation. Like it was like just hard for me to like keep a straight face. And I think you took it very like humbly and respectfully. But I also admire that it doesn't beat you down. And I mean, there's hurts, there's your feelings are valid, and you don't have to always be the tough guy. But to open your heart, be vulnerable, and just seek to have connection, and yeah, and just prioritizing a relationship. In that sense, like I think, yeah, I'm just so grateful for you and all the besides all the great things you do, like just because it's you. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Episode 5.
Glow.
I hope you guys have a great rest of your day slash
Yeah.
night or morning.
Mm.
And I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yes.
Bye.